Eternity by Alfred Lindelof. Chapter 7. Guilty. 6 years to the day after meeting Detective Boulder for the first time, I would meet him again for the second. Another empty room, another metal table. Only this time I would be in an orange jumpsuit with handcuffs binding my wrists together. A prisoner on death row. Through my lawyer, Boulder arranged a face-to-face meeting so he could talk to me before the sentence and myself were to be executed later that day. "I asked to be reassigned," he said, referencing my case. "O'Hare wouldn't believe me about your innocence. He said I was too close to the case, that the death of your Evelyn and the death of my Mary were so similar that I sympathized with you, and also that I just can't see the monster you are. Not so eloquently, as you can imagine." We both half chuckled. Detective Boulder continued, "But that was not true. I no longer let my emotions dictate my actions. That part of me died a long time ago with the woman I love." That same intense, unbroken stare fixed on me again. "You loved Evelyn. I could see it in your eyes. I even see it now. Anyone who's been loved by the person they love could see the pain of loss you're feeling." I tried not to interrupt him. I figured he just needed to clear his conscience before the electrocution. "The evidence was stacked too great against you, Adam." The grief-stricken bass notes in his voice shook the metal table between us. "I couldn't prove them wrong. I'm sorry." Using 2 words and 6 seconds of hesitation, this staunch behemoth of a man surprised me more than anything in the 6 years I spent behind bars. The rest of the meeting was very short, unfortunately. I had places to be, you see, and they do hate when you're late to your appointment. An abrupt entrance from my favorite guard, and possibly the only guard who wasn't a raging piece of shit, concluded our conversation. "Come on, Adam," Gabrielle said with a sudden, slight hint of sorrow. "Time's up." Before departing, Detective Boulder shook my hand and said his goodbyes. I like to believe that we could have continued that conversation longer if I didn't hate him so much at the time. Alas, I did. So alas, it did not. After Boulder left, Gabrielle escorted me out of the tiny room and back into my tiny holding cell. Her shift was ending soon, so she hugged me and said her goodbyes. It was weird. I was surprised anyone would miss me at all. Now 2 people expressed their grief of my passing in one day. Unfortunately for them, I didn't give a shit about their grieving. At least not enough to reciprocate. Finally alone, I could examine the small, square, pointy thing Charles left in the palm of my hand. A single folded piece of paper. "A note?" I asked to no one out loud while unfolding it. "What is this, 2nd grade?" I was bitter, to say the least. 6 years in a maximum security prison will do that to a man. Written on the front was Charles Boulder, June 6th, and a few sentences I didn't care to read at the time, so I flipped it over for no reason at all, as people do. Written on the back, "My deepest and most sincere condolences for your loss. I can see in your eyes that you loved Evelyn the way I loved my Mary. With that alone, I knew you would never hurt her." Well, gee, thanks. A lot of good it did me. I didn't want or care about his condolences. My theoretical death was happening in 60 minutes, and I blamed him and his shitty partner. So I crumpled up the paper and put it into my pocket. To be honest, I was scared. Not of death, not of dying, but of not dying. Might be worse. How much worse could it be? You will see. You will see. Clang, clang, clang. "Hey, asshole." The guards unanimously hated me. This particular douchebag banging on the bars of my cell called himself El Capitan. He wasn't a captain of anything. His real name was Henry. Henry determined that my real name was Asshole. Quite to my misfortune, Henry was a cousin of Evelyn's, or so he said. And apparently they were pretty close as kids, but eventually grew apart. I'd never heard of him. She didn't mention him once that I can remember, but who cares? The point is that he hated me for his own shitty reasons so much that he transferred there from 3 states away with full ambitions to make my life hell until I died. And hell it was. A certain torture accomplished through staying by my side, all shift, every shift, by beating me with a nightstick when no one was around. Or maybe the month he took away my showering privileges. There were entire weeks where my meals were inexplicably reduced to bread and water. Joke's on him. I love bread and water. Honestly, I could go on for a few pages about the heinous happenings Henry did to me and what horrible things this demon had others do unto me. But that's way too much space for such a symbol of shit. You may as well consider this chapter toilet paper while you're at it. Hello, Henry. Rolled off of my tongue and spat on the floor. The clanging pissed me off, but I couldn't stop him one way or another. Hell, if I even shifted my head in discomfort, he would hit the bars harder. I often found it was simply beneficial never to react at all. Clang, clang! Rise and shine us whole! It was the middle of the day, but this was his greeting for me every time he saw me regardless. Even at night. Idiot. Like I'd sleep away what little freedom I had left. Besides, who wants to go to sleep when all you dream about is darkness? It's time, you piece of shit! He shouted, sing-songy over his louder, more triumphant clanging. I wanted to shove his nightstick into his teeth just to shut him up. Already? I mumbled. An hour passed by. I didn't even notice. I pulled my chin up from its perch on my clenched fists. Looking at each hand individually, I wondered what was going to happen to me. Time was beginning to slip by. Quicker and quicker, the more I died. Henry opened the jail cell door, allowing an unnecessary 4 shaky-fingered guards to flood in, cuffs and shackles at the ready. The guards all heard rumors about me, so they were scared of me. Rumors that were confirmed multiple times by Henry helping himself to a gluttonous portion of revenge-fueled hatred. I was the appetizer, main course, and dessert for his anger's hunger. My first steps to death began with passing people who knew enough about my inability to die that a breeze of concern rolled over them. Silence filled the cells around me. Would I die, or would I be eating dinner with them? My final steps in jail, however, were filled with whistles, cheers, and claps from inmates who knew of only rumors. Not because they were going to miss me. Nothing like that. Actually, quite the opposite. Every inmate up and down the corridors celebrated the leaving and passing of Adam. No longer would they have to reference, look at, or be around Adam. Let's just say they, too, were scared of Adam. After an incident, Henry had them call me El Diablo. See, no one really asks any questions if a prisoner on death row is found dead one morning swinging by their bedsheets. Well, after a few years behind bars, good old Henry here tried to have me killed. But his plan failed. My only friend and cellmate, Michael, found out through some sources that Henry pulled strings, offering a plea bargain to any inmate who takes care of me. That same night I was tucked into my bottom bunk by an eerily unfamiliar face. Or, should I say, Michael got switched around with one of the larger, intensely horrifying inmates that you try not to lock eyes with around the courtyard. I don't remember his name. Damn, we weren't even in the same cell block normally. But there he was in my cell, and guided by my living conditions so far, I knew exactly why. Needless to say, no inmate talked to me after that night. Well, none except Michael. But to be fair, he had very little choice. He was my now returned regular cellmate, and curiosity eventually got the better of him. I let him pretend he didn't like me, though, since he was scared that they would try to kill him too. So, when Henry was told that no inmate would go near me, he took my life into his own hands. Repeatedly. With glee. Even after nearly 3 years of daily beatings, tortures, or deaths, he never got bored of any of it. He shoved me by myself through the final doorway into the last hall of inmates. Neanderthals, they pissed on me. The guards all moved away. Niagara Falls of spit and feces covered brown my face. Water poured to wash me off, so no one else would know. Continue walking, fucking asshole. To my death I go. The shackles that tethered my arms and legs were finally removed, only to be replaced moments later by a different kind of binding, one that locks you into a wooden chair before they place electrodes on your head and leg. I remember thinking how cold the wires were against my skin as I peered through the glass to the room of people behind it. Much to my surprise, a number of unexpected individuals peered back at me. Detective Boulder, O'Hare, Gary, if you can believe it. Then about 2 or 3 other people I don't remember. But there was one person behind the glass who I will never forget. A short-statured, scientist-looking man in a long white coat, somehow staring down at me from his invisible high horse. I had never seen him before in my life. He was unfamiliar to me in every way, look, and mannerism, but there he was, staring at me, observing me, studying me. I was beginning to feel violated in a way that I imagine lab rats would feel when looking up at their ever-watching gods gazing back down at them. I was more frightened of this man at that point than I was of any human being I'd ever encountered.
"Clear the room," I heard them say.
10 more seconds.
Make it 8. 5 until the time I'm done. 4, now 3, then 2, and 1. This numbing, shocking pain inflicted stopped my heart for 15 seconds.
Then I woke up right as rain.
Reboot, rewind, and try again. 3 more times before the liquid deadly poison was injected. Doses deemed for larger species. Nothing more than made me sleepy.
Out I was, but not deranged.
When I awoke, the room had changed. No more glass. No witness watching. Just white coats and thinking, talking. Could not kill me, though they tried. They tried new ways. New ways, I died. But every time I rose from this, intrigued much more. The scientist.
Alrighty, that was chapter 7. If you liked it, like it, comment. Please let me know what you think. Subscribe so you can hear them as they come out. The next few will be released pretty quickly.